Armas is gone! Toronto FC has finally, after 15 games this season, after 11 Major League Soccer games this season, fired new head coach Chris Armas. Armas was hired as Greg Vanney's replacement back in January after a month-and-a-half long search. He had previously worked with Ali Curtis in the New York Red Bulls organization and was previously the coach of the New York Red Bulls before being fired midway through the 2020 MLS season. And, I mean, we've talked about it. His regime in Toronto had been an unmitigated disaster for the first 15 games of this season. Started off great with that Champions League win over Lyon. That was a nice surprise. And from there, it was just everything downhill off a cliff, really. After 11 games in MLS, Toronto FC are 1-8-2, sitting on just 5 points, 3 points behind anyone else in the league, and is currently last place in the MLS standings. This is with a team that had just finished second in the Supporters' Shield race last season, and coming into the season was supposed to be a MLS Cup contender. And so Chris Armas finishes his Toronto FC career with what is a Toronto FC worst ever record by a head coach of 2-10-3 for a win percentage of just 13.33%. And to top it all off, finishes with a 7-1 loss to DC United, which is Toronto FC's worst loss ever, and 7 goals being the most goals Toronto FC has ever given up in a single game. You know, from the Westberg versus Bono debate, to his treatment of Josie Altidore, to playing players just out of position, to playing a style of play that does not fit this Toronto FC team at all, and also training players for that format and injuring a lot of his players in training for a style of play that they can't play. Chris Armas, just a terrible, terrible, terrible 3 months to his Toronto FC campaign. And yeah, you can say, oh, but the team wasn't playing in Canada. Oh, but they had a lot of injuries. The injuries partially are on him. And even with the team not playing in Canada, I can see that as a reason for them to not be, right up in the midst of the Supporters' Shield race. But with this team, even with that, you should be mid-table. Bottom. Absolute terrible from Chris Armas in his Toronto FC career. And I think the players knew it. And if you watched the game last night against DC United, it really looked like the players just gave up on him right from the opening kickoff. I mean, Chris Mavinga, love the guy. On that third goal, can you really say he was trying? Michael Bradley, I've seen what it looks like when Michael Bradley's seriously trying. We've seen it earlier in the season. Can you say, watch last night's game and watch Michael Bradley in the earlier part of the season against Club Lyon, and tell me Michael Bradley was trying last night? Tell me Pozuelo was really trying when he came onto the field. Soteldo was. He was playing pretty well. I don't think Pozuelo was. I think a lot of the guys gave up on Chris Armas, and he lost the room 100%. That probably fully happened with the Josie Altidore saga, where he's benched Josie Altidore for literally a month. Over the last month of Chris Armas' tenure as the Toronto FC head coach, Josie Altidore was not even training with the team. He was basically having a free vacation, paid vacation, in Florida for a month. I don't even know what the hell was going on there. You said a DP player, your only DP player that was healthy for most of the month. You have a 3-week break to rejuvenate the players, and you come out worse than when you went into it. Chris Armas, honestly, terrible, terrible, terrible the whole way through. Thank God he is gone. Replacement. As of right now, TFC has not named an official replacement for Chris Armas. In the press conference, Ali Curtis said that current assistant head coach Javier Perez is going to be behind the bench for Wednesday, was what he said, which leads me to believe that that is a very short-term interim job, and that they are going to be replacing Ali Curtis with a proper head coach pretty soon, and it's not just going to be an interim position throughout the whole season, or it might be a different interim guy while they do a more thorough search. But for right now, with 2 days notice between now and the next game, which is on Wednesday against New England, they're just going to go with a guy who's been with the team the whole season, with Perez, who's been the assistant since a little after Armas himself is hired, which, I mean, I don't know what to think about this one. Pears is a guy who has been an assistant coach for a while, was assistant of the US team, was assistant of NYCFC for 4 years. I think he's a solid assistant coach in MLS. Now I guess he has a game or two to showcase why he can be a full-on coach in MLS. So interesting for him. Who do I think should be the proper replacement for Chris Armas? Honestly, I don't know. There was a lot of names being thrown around. When Greg Vanney left, and now a lot of those guys have been swooped up or are in positions right now where they can't really leave. I know when Vanney left, I was a big friend supporter of, let's put Bobby Smirniotis in there because he's been great with Forge in the CPL, but the CPL season just starting, I can't see Forge letting him go. I can't see him wanting to leave Forge after what they're building towards this season, which looks like a squad that, if they can start winning games in CPL, might actually be able to compete in the CONCACAF League, so that should be exciting for them. I don't see Smirniotis wanting to leave that. I've heard Stephen Caldwell's name getting thrown around. That's an interesting option. He is the assistant coach of the Canadian national team, and he was the former captain of TFC before Michael Bradley. That's a very possible option. Give him an interim tag for the remainder of the season, and if he does well, he's your head coach moving forward. Michael Bradley as player coach has been thrown around amongst supporters. I don't see that happening. I see Michael Bradley being kept around to potentially move into a coaching role when he retires from playing, but I don't see a player coach being the direction that Toronto FC is really heading in right now. And then there's also talks of Mike Munoz, who's the current coach of Toronto FC 2. Another interesting option. He's got Toronto FC 2 off to quite a solid start this season. I mean, they really were boosted by having Luke Singh and Jaden Nelson and Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy all sent to TFC 2. Proof that those guys probably are ready for a bit more of a role in MLS. But he knows a lot of the young guys right now in the TFC squad. He'd be a solid option as also an interim tag. I don't think any of these guys are really proper on give them the full-on coaching reins just yet. The only real name option I can think of off the top of my head, which is a very unpopular one, is I know Frank de Boer was just stepped down as coach of the Dutch team. He did coach Atlanta United for a couple of years, but with how he performed at Atlanta United and how he was let go there, I don't think he's really the best option. He's just kind of a name that's available. So that's an option, I guess. Damn, Patrick Vieira literally just signed with Crystal Palace. So he would have been nice to have. Would have been nice. But yeah, Chris Armas is gone. In terms of replacements, it's completely up in the air. But really, it would be very, very hard-pressed to find someone else now who's worse than what Chris Armas did. And for upper management, Ali Curtis, Bill Manning, two things. One, Greg Vanney was very, very involved with finding players for this team. He's very involved in player acquisition and player scouting and all of that. So having a head coach that's just a head coach, which is what they wanted with Chris Armas, they wanted a head coach that was below them. I don't think that's the way to go. I think you need a coach that's much more involved with player scouting, with player development, with player acquisitions. So hopefully Curtis and Manning learned from this and realized they need a guy that was as involved, at least as involved as Greg Vanney was, because that is a very crucial thing to a team's success, is to acquire players that play the style that the coach wants to play and acquire players that the coach wants. I know Ali Curtis in this hiring hired his guy. I'm happy that he realized that it did not work as soon as he did. Yes, it could have happened a couple of games sooner, but honestly, 15 games into a guy's tenure is incredibly early to fire a coach. So let's see. Honestly, this right now, Ali Curtis has one shot to redeem himself with the next coach hiring. And if the next coach comes in and it still isn't good enough, still can't get out of this team what we think and what we know as fans that this team is capable of, I think Curtis has got to go too. But he's got one more coaching hire to redeem himself in my eyes. So there you have it. Chris Armas, the worst coach in Toronto FC history. I think we can officially proclaim him that now. I mean, his record is officially that, and he had the worst loss in TFC history. So the official worst coach in Toronto FC history is gone. Finally. Hopefully this season will turn around, and hopefully it will turn around too, because big news in the press conference as well. This Thursday, Toronto FC is returning home to Toronto in 4 days. Yes, right now it's officially just to train. However, they said the game July 17th against Orlando will probably be played in Toronto. It's looking like it'll be played in Toronto. If not, it will not be played in Orlando. They'll probably play it somewhere closer to Toronto. I mean, it could be in Connecticut again. That would be interesting. But hopefully, we're almost at Toronto FC coming home. And I mean, that kind of expected because we knew that Forge announced that they were playing their game in August 4th against the team from El Salvador in the CONCACAF League at home. So Toronto FC coming home, I think should be allowed either 2,500 fans or 25% attendance. I'm not sure right now. Hopefully, new coach, back at home, that can rejuvenate this team because it's still not too late. You can still make the playoffs. And if you can make the playoffs, anything can happen. So that does it for this video. If you liked it, hit like. If you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.